The timeless story of an old gay man obsessed with a young twink who isn't even interested in them. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another review from the Toronto International Film Festival. This time for Queer, directed by Luca Guadagnino, in arguably, possibly, probably his most ambitious project to date in many ways. For those of you who don't know, Queer follows Lee, played by Daniel Craig, who recounts his life in 1950s Mexico. Surviving on part-time jobs and GI Bill benefits, he is driven to pursue a young man named Allerton, played by the beautiful Drew Starkey. Let me just say, I understood Lee completely here. It's kind of undeniable in this because let me tell you, the way Luca shoots Starkey in this film is stunning. In this film, I think Guadagnino captures the beauty of the male form through Drew Starkey's character, Allerton, portraying it with an elegance and a vulnerability and all of that contrasts, sharply contrasts the typical, more like beefcake representation of whenever a male body is represented sensually on screen. It's like usually muscular, that kind of stuff. He just strikes the perfect balance here of emphasizing a blend of masculinity, femininity, allure, vulnerability. Truly one of the most beautiful portrayals of a man. And yes, for those of you who aren't aware, Queer is an adaptation of William S. Burroughs, I believe his second novel. It explores it's kind of like autobiographical, and this film is also kind of about William S. Burroughs himself, portrayed by Daniel Craig. And it's the book as well as the film is kind of about drug addiction. Oh, why can't I fucking say that? Addiction. The book as well as the film is, yes, about drug addiction, but I feel like even more so it's about being addicted to a person and having this like deep, untamable addiction to a specific person who does not feel the same way towards you, and how that can absolutely shatter the soul. And no matter how much you try and twist yourself inside out to try and win over their affection, you'll never receive the love that you crave from them, not in the way that you want, not in a reciprocal, equal, balanced out way. Even traveling to the jungle and taking a telepathic drug, as they may do at some point in this film, you won't be able to read that person anymore. Even taking telepathic drugs, you still can't read what is going on in their head and why they don't feel the same way, how they even feel about you. I wasn't sure about how I felt about this film first leaving it. It did, let's be fair to me, let's have a little self-defense here. It did screen at 9:45 p.m., which during a film festival is quite late when you get up early for those press screenings and you're seeing multiple films a day. It was rough. There were moments there, especially in the first two acts, where it's a lot of these two gentlemen getting to know each other. Some might call it meandering. I was enjoying myself, but there were moments where I was like, oh, like, dozing off and then like jumping back up immediately. But that's not because of the film. That's because it screened at 9:45 p.m. Leaving the film, I wasn't completely sure how I felt about it. But the more I thought about it and what it explores and the way it explores it, in that third act, which is really what I was most unsure about, because I was vibing with the first two acts. It wasn't anything revolutionary, but I was enjoying it. Then the third act gets very experimental, very surrealist, very almost like David Lynchy, which I didn't expect in a Guadagnino film. But the more I think about it, the more I love it, and the more that wackiness that happens in the third act relates to the characters and what's going on inside both of them internally and the themes of the film. I'm like, okay, he cooked. And Queer actually makes for an interesting like companion piece to Call Me by Your Name, directed by Guadagnino, because Call Me by Your Name is about a young boy kind of like discovering himself and having this like desperate need for the love and attention of this older man, and it's kind of unrequited. It's not completely balanced out and equal there, and then he just fucks off at the end. Queer is about this older man, older jaded man, desperate for that same love and attention that Elliot was desperate for, except this time it's for the younger man in this case, and it's also unrequited and not equal and not balanced. And they, just like Elliot couldn't quite read Oliver, Lee can't quite read Allerton. It's kind of a role reversal in a little bit of a way. But they're also kind of like, in the way that they explore that unrequited love, quite different, honestly. I almost feel like Queer is like the antithesis of Call Me by Your Name in a way. And I don't want to spoil anything, so I'll just leave it at that. Both of the characters are experiencing almost like a crisis of like lust and love. And Daniel Craig, this is the best performance I've ever seen from him by far. The role asks a lot of him, and he completely 100% fully commits to it. And it's very admirable. You can just looking in his eyes and just feeling his aura almost on screen, you can tell that there is this like deeply hurt and damaged soul within him, but he's putting up like this like front of like being very jokey and funny and happy-go-lucky. This is a front. You are like a really, really broken man who has multiple different obsessions and addictions. Bestie, was therapy a thing in the 1950s? Let's. When was therapy invented, guys? Therapy was invented in the late 1800s, so you don't have an excuse, Lee, actually. So I feel like you maybe should have gone to some therapy, but honestly, I don't think, especially for men, I don't think therapy was destigmatized until semi-recently. You can ask previous generations in my family that. 1950s therapy. In the 1950s, doctors favored artificial fever therapy and electroshock therapy. Okay, maybe he shouldn't have gotten. Never mind. Maybe therapy wasn't an option for him after all. And Drew Starkey does a great job with the role that is given to him. It's the kind of role that has to be more subtle and reserved because Allerton is supposed to be a cipher of sorts because Lee is our perspective character in this film. He has to be a cipher to Lee because Lee is never completely sure how much interest Allerton actually even has in him, if how he's ever actually feeling, how he feels about him. He's supposed to be hard to read and very subtle and reserved and like, what is going on inside your head?
Do you ever look at someone and wonder what is going on inside their head?
We're supposed to be with Lee wondering like, what is going on with him? Like, is he even interested or attracted to him? Is he just using him to like have a good time? Like, what is your deal? What is your goal? What's up with you, bro? We're supposed to feel that same way. So he's hard to read, but he's pretty, and he nails that. And Daniel Craig and Drew Starkey have great chemistry throughout the whole film. The whole film is pretty much them and their relationship. And there are some moments within their relationship that it feels like, oh, okay, that's kind of a jump. Like I feel like maybe you could have used a scene or two before this to kind of earn this moment more and build up to it better. But this film was also originally about like three and a half hours long. So I feel like there were definitely scenes early on in the film like establishing their relationship and connection more that were probably cut. And I think we deserve the 3+ hour, completely uncut version instead of this cut version. I'm just realizing what this sounds like. Okay, moving on. Not really, actually, because the next topic I have here is the sex. And the sex be sexing in this film. Sucking dick, sucking cock, handfuls of ass, and more. I actually remember because like I said, I dozed off. Like not like I didn't fall asleep for long run times of this film. I was present for the majority of it. I remember I like dozed off and then like I came back like probably like a minute later. I jolted back up and the first thing I saw was Daniel Craig going in between and under Drew Starkey's legs to get a handful of ass. And I was just like, what's happening here? I was like, oh, the production design and the cinematography and all of that displaying this 1950s Mexico City area is just beautiful. It's stunning. It's very pretty to look at. Like the people are pretty to look at. The set designs are pretty to look at. It's a pretty film. But yeah, the production design is incredible. I felt like I was transported back to that time. And yeah, it's expected with Luca Guadagnino at this point. The cinematography by that cinematographer whose name I'll put up on screen, who I don't know how to pronounce his name, but he is always incredible. The score, Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross just like know how to make a score no matter what is needed of them. Incredible. Like this is a completely different type of score from what they did with Challengers earlier in the year, which is also incredible. But like this is much more of like a, you know, emotional, sensual, lovey-dovey, like feelings kind of score rather than the club music that we had with Challengers. But it's just beautiful to listen to, and it definitely enhanced every scene that it played over. So yeah, every technical aspect of this film is chef's kiss. I need to rewatch I need to rewatch on this film in general to be completely sure how I feel about it. Because I was in a little bit of a tired state, and this is a film that I think no matter what state you're in when you see it, a rewatch is kind of needed, especially given the third act, which we can get into now. They go to a jungle to try and like I think it's called Yayawi or like whatever the name of the drug is. I don't know if it's real. I don't know my drugs. I'm sorry. It could be real. Who knows? But it's like called Yahweh Yawa. It starts with a Y. And there's definitely an A in there as well. And I think Daniel Craig wants it, like I said earlier, because it achieves telepathy. And he's like, "What is this boy thinking? I need to take this drug to be like figure it out." They go to the jungle for this drug. Drugs are good, guys. And they meet Leslie Manville's character there, who I wasn't even like leaving the film. This is embarrassing and probably makes me look bad, but leaving the film, I was like, was Leslie Manville not in this film? Like I thought she was supposed to be in this film, but it they go to the jungle and they meet like a like jungle lady. I don't know what you would call her. She's native. I don't think. I think she was still a white woman, but I wasn't completely sure, honestly. But yeah, Leslie Manville as this jungle native drug lady. She really goes for it completely. She's a crazy lady, but she's fun. You know, she's a vibe. But yeah, she helps them with their drug journey, and it's very trippy. Like I said, it's surreal. It's a little David Lynchy. You know, some incredible, beautiful visuals though of them like merging together as they hug. Very beautiful stuff, visually. And I feel like there's a lot of different like metaphors and like stuff like that. You know, that super smart people when this film comes out to even more people super smart people like write a whole deep dive and analysis of what all these different drug trips and the different visuals and hallucinations, what they all mean to the characters and the themes and all of that stuff. And I will enjoy reading that stuff. My, I don't know, man. I'm not going to be able to figure that out myself, especially because my memory of it's not great, and I was tired when I was watching it, and my brain wasn't completely functioning. So I will wait for the much smarter people to do that analysis. I think it really worked. I was a little like, what's happening here? Because I didn't know really anything about this film going into it. And it was like, okay, I get the vibe for the first two acts. And then this third act, I was like, did not see this coming. I'm tired and I'm a little thrown off, but you know, go off. And also worth mentioning, I guess, in the cast is Jason Schwartzman plays like Daniel Craig's like buddy friend. Um, once another case where I was like, is that Jason Schwartzman? Because he's like much shorter and he's like stockier, like he's got some pudge. But yeah, he's a fun character. He's very funny in this film. And he provides a lot of nice comedic relief. Omar Apollo, I'm sure some of you guys for reasons are interested. He's a very small role. He has like one scene. But for those of you who are interested, you'll probably see what you want to see in those scenes. So there you go. I think the film also owes a lot to both Craig and Starkey and their chemistry that provides like a tension between them throughout the entire film, especially like when there's less plot and stuff going on in the first two acts. What keeps you invested is this tension between the two of them. It's definitely going to be one of his most challenging films. Like the people who saw Challengers and Call Me by Your Name are. I would like to see their reactions leaving this film if they have, especially if they haven't seen like Bones Doll and Suspiria Luca. It's like this leans more towards that. It's a hard film to talk about, especially without a rewatch. But those are kind of my messy, put together thoughts upon first watch of how I feel about the film. And I think a rewatch, I'm guessing honestly, because the more I think about it, I'm like, I like this. I think a rewatch would improve my thoughts on it even more. But we'll see. You'll get an update on this channel at some point, I'm sure. But yeah, Oscar chances. That can be a quick section. Oscars aren't going to touch this. The Academy's not touching this film with a 10-foot pole. It's simply not the kind of thing that they go for in many different ways. The only thing it has a slight chance at is Daniel Craig, and even then, A24's got two other priorities in lead actor of Adrian Brody and Coleman Domingo, both of which I think they're in films that are much more accessible, Academy accessible, that the Academy will go for, that are likely going to get a Best Picture. This will not. So I fear Daniel Craig will probably, because I don't know if A24 can get 3/5 of one acting category. That is tough to do. I think I can't even think of one that's happened recently, especially for lead. Maybe in supporting, but for lead, that's questionable. So go see Queer when it comes out, if A24 even puts it in a theater near you, A24, we've got a little beef. I didn't even get to see Sing Sing, and now it's out of theaters. Yeah, we've got a little beef, A24. But if you get me into an early screening of The Brutalist, beef disappears. It's gone. Like the video, subscribe, comment, give a little super thanks if you want to be if you want to be the lead to my Allerton. So yeah, thank you all for watching, and bye.